So I've been meaning to make this video for a while, and you know, the topic is just the dismal state of line in and line out audio support in Arduino and similar boards, right? Single, you know, these kind of microcontroller boards. And so this doesn't talk about modules and all that. There are quite a few of these modules that would allow you to get line in, line out, and so forth. So I just want to talk about boards which come with the line in and line out jacks integrated. So you could see a few of them here. So this is the Lyra T board. This is the audio kit board, and this is an STM32 discovery board. And you know, I threw this one in there. This is an M5 stack type 5, which doesn't have separate jacks, but it does allow you to do input through the headset jack. So what's the issue? Well, let's go through the list, right? So you know, if you want to do an audio application that requires you to both input audio and output audio easily, then you know, it seems like your best option is one of these Lyra T or this AI Thinker board, because they have separate jacks for line in, line out. Unfortunately, you would be quite wrong if that was your approach. And let's go through why. So first of all, this board came out maybe 6 years ago or more, and in order to get it to work, you had to remove some of the surface mounted components, either it's a capacitor, resistor, whatever, for the audio to work correctly. And when I first read that and saw it, my assumption was, oh yeah, the company is going to quickly release another version of this board. Well, 6+ years later, there's no version of this board. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it is being produced anymore. So that's one of the hardware challenges. More importantly is the software environment to program this thing in. Unfortunately, I don't believe these things support the Arduino environment, or at least they don't have full support. So you have to use the expressive IDF environment, which is certainly not for beginners. And I remember when we wrote the original firmware code just to test getting a audio signal in, decoding it, then outputting digital audio out. It was quite a challenge and a heavy lift, but we got it to work. And yeah, was the audio perfect? No, but it was working. And which brings us to this board. So in theory, this board is supposed to be a clone of that board, except more cheaper. Well, that's certainly not the case. So if you read the documentation, this company would have you believe you just change some pin configurations and recompile your firmware and all that. Yeah, the firmware does recompile, does load up on the board, and it certainly didn't work. So that was 6 years ago we attempted that. And recently I said, well, as a challenge to want to say Google's Gemini LLM, let's see if we could get the code that works on this board to work on that board. And it did. So I was like all excited. Yes, this is a cheaper board. I don't have to go removing the surface components on there to get the audio to work correctly. And I said, all right, so this is a 6-year-old board. So I said, let me order some of the newer variants of this board just to make sure everything works. Lo and behold, flash the firmware into the newer versions of the board, and it doesn't work. Now, does it give any error? No. Why is it not working? No. And a quick perusal of comments about this board tell you this is just a piece of junk. There's no documentation. It obviously there some components will change, but you don't know that because the only difference is that there is a little small number on there. So this one is an A149. The most recent ones I got was like A520, and you don't know what the difference is between that. So if you're planning to do any kind of audio work with Arduino ESP32 boards, stay away from these boards. It just, it seems like the manufacturer just makes these things knowing full well that if you're someone like me, you're gonna buy this, put it in a drawer somewhere, and then 6 months later you get a little free time, you come back to it, only to find out that this is doesn't work, and you certainly can't return it at that point. So it just goes into the junk pile. So stay away from these boards. So let's look at some other boards we have here. So let's go with this one. This is a STM32 Discovery, I think 746 F746G. And you know, the nice thing about this board is that it has color coding, line in and line out jacks. So it's perfect, you know, from the physical aspects for, you know, if you're doing audio projects that require input and output. It also has a nice touchscreen LCD. And the challenge with this board is just software. So programming this board, you know, the assumption is you are a professional embedded software developer, so you know how to use the tool chains and understand all that. Because even though technically you could get Arduino support for this board, it's just not full support. And if you're trying to do something, you know, use the peripherals, then you may or may not be lucky with it. Again, I used Google Gemini to write some working code, so audio input, decoding it and so forth, but that was just a painful experience, and I couldn't imagine anyone who's just relatively new to this kind of embedded development or doing just only knows Arduino environment getting any kind of code to work on this properly. And lastly, I want to take a look at this. It's a new board, so it's from M5 Stack. This is a Type 5. You know, really nice board. A lot of features, a lot of peripherals, and this is interesting because you could do audio input, but it's through a headset jack, which means you only have a single channel input. So and the irony here is that this board has the chip to handle up to 4 input channels. So 2 of them are used by the built-in mics, and then 1 is used by the headset jack, and 1 is just not used. So literally that company could have just added an alternative, an additional jack to support line in or mic in, and that way we could easily do stereo recording with it. But instead they decided to add this groove port. Okay, that's kind of useful. Then this other port over here, not sure why, and then this other port over here. So if you listen in M5 Stack and you have to do a reversion of this, maybe get rid of this port and put an additional jack in there, because literally it will just cost you the whatever pennies these audio jacks cost. All right, so that was the foray into this microcontroller ESP STM boards for audio input, audio output type applications. My next option was to go look at what's available in the Raspberry Pi and similar think-about computer landscape for line in, line out recording. All right, so now here's my collection of Raspberry Pi and similar devices. So over here we have this Reterminal by Sid Studio, Redaxa 3C, Rock 3C, and my Raspberry Pi 3. And what always troubled me about these boards is that from the start they never had any jack for the mic or line in, and they had the jack for headset, and it just boggles my mind that when they were designing these things this never came up. Like, why not have just a simple jack for mic or line in? Because there's a lot of applications which it's nice to have a line in, line out jacks just conveniently there. So if you notice on this thing, there's just only one jack. This has no audio jacks whatsoever. And so typically if you wanted to get line in, mic in, or anything else like this, the assumption would be you use one of these either USB sound cards with either mic in, headphone out, or a little bit more complicated USB sound card like this one, relatively inexpensive, and this one offers you a lot more options and so forth. But again, if it's just simplicity is the name of the game, where I just simply want to have record stereo in, then playback stereo out. I'm not building a high-res audio system, so it didn't really matter to me on the quality. This, as long as the quality was as good as, let's say, a cheap MP3 player. And you know, the other option was to use, if you don't want USB, use one of these nice hats. So this, I forgot which company made this. I'll put the link in there. But essentially, it's supposedly plug and play, so you plug it in and it will work. Now, plug and play, I tried it with this, which is a Raspberry Pi 4, I guess, compute module. With the company had all the other stuff around it. And, well, it didn't play with this one. But that's kind of understandable. This is not, you know, an official Raspberry Pi. It probably would work with this Raspberry Pi 3, but that's not the point, right? The point is, this is a $30 board, and if you look on there as far as the components, so you have a mic in jack, line in, and the headphone out, and there's almost no components on this. That, look at there's only one IC. I could see some resistors and all that stuff, which means you could have easily added it to the board directly. The one that comes the closest is this Redaxter board, which just has a headset in. But again, if you wanted to do stereo recording, you couldn't. And what's even more maddening to me is that they have the 40-pin header for these hats, but these are not compatible. Which means that 40-pin header in there is kind of worthless. And I'm just looking at how much real estate that 40-pin takes up. I'm like, you could have actually easily added all three of these jacks where that pin is. So yeah, that kind of summarizes the whole landscape for Raspberry Pi and similar devices as far as when it comes to built-in line-in, line-out support, which, you know, none of them have it. All right, so what is the solution, potential solution, given the dismal situation of getting boards with built-in line-in, line-out jacks? Is it to design a new board for that? Absolutely not. Based on the way these things, the market for these devices, it's huge, but it's not that big. And if you were just to build a board which just has everything else the same as this, but now it has these extra jacks on there, then you would never recoup your investment on that because you're not going to sell enough of it. What is this alternative solution? Is to use something like this. This is a DIY module, and you may notice it looks very similar to one of the Arduino boards, ESP32 boards, and a Raspberry Pi board. So it has more or less all similar peripherals. You get USB jacks. More importantly, you get in the line-in, line-out jacks for audio. You get Bluetooth, you get Wi-Fi, you get everything in that you would want in an audio-focused development board. The primary focus of this is for DIY folks who want to build, let's say, their own Bluetooth speaker, where you could stream Apple, Spotify, Prime, or anything, any one of your music services onto this board. And this board is professionally made. It works really well, and more importantly, this board is used in the commercial devices. So you could buy it separately, but also if you buy one of their devices from a company which sells them is Erlich. But this is a white box device, so you're gonna see other companies using this exact same board or module in other audio devices. So it's widely made. It's solid. Audio quality is good enough for most people. What is the issue with this board? Well, even though it looks like it's running something like, say, a real-time operating system on there, like the Arduino boards, ESP32 boards, this actually runs a Linux kernel on there. So I believe it's a derivative of OpenWrt based Linux distribution. And the most important thing is that you don't have to design any new hardware, manufacture any new hardware. It's just available and ready to use. It's just going through the process of making it easy to transition it from the manufacturer's firmware to some kind of custom firmware, with the goal being to easily write this audio-based applications.